Welcome to Life Stories. Imagine dedicating years of your life to supporting the people you love, only to discover they saw you as nothing more than an ATM. That's exactly what happened to Emily, a successful woman who believed she was helping her parents through retirement, until one accidental text shattered her world. Betrayal, manipulation, and a painful journey to self-liberation. This is her story. Stay with us as we dive deep into today's emotional and eye-opening tale. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to begin today's story with Life Stories. I stared out of the window, watching the April rain streak down the glass, blurring the world outside my townhouse in Boston. The sky was gray, the streets wet, the air thick with that familiar scent of earth and asphalt after a downpour. I had always loved the rain. Its quiet, rhythmic presence had a way of grounding me, of making me feel safe. But today, there was no comfort to be found in its steady drumming. Everything I thought I knew about my family had just crumbled before my eyes. All because of a simple text. It had been a normal afternoon. I was sitting on my couch, sipping a cup of tea, my laptop open with a half-written email to a client. Then my phone vibrated, a message from my brother, Tyler, in the family group chat. The family ATM just sent another $3. At first, I didn't understand. My stomach tightened as I read the words again. ATM? My mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a joke. A typo. Something that wasn't meant to sound so dehumanizing. Then another message popped up. This time, from my father. LMAO, keep that gravy train running. She's too stupid to realize we're using her. The cup of tea in my hand trembled, spilling onto my sleeve, but I barely noticed. My mother's response followed a moment later. Casual and amused. Just bought those golf clubs your father wanted. Emily would flip if she knew her money was going to those instead of medical bills. My breath came in short, uneven gasps. I felt cold. A part of me wanted to believe it was some kind of cruel mistake. That it wasn't real, that there had been a mix-up, a misunderstanding. But as my fingers fumbled over my phone screen, my heart hammering in my chest, I scrolled further and found message after message, years worth of conversations I had never been meant to see. Screenshots of their private chat, one that didn't include me, discussions on how best to manipulate me, how to play on my sympathies. Tell Emily the heating bill is too high this month. She'll send extra. Say we had a plumbing issue. She won't check, just act stressed. If she asks too many questions, get Tyler to talk to her. She trusts him. I couldn't breathe. For 5 years, I had been sending my parents extra money each month, convinced that I was helping them live comfortably in their retirement. I had never hesitated, never questioned it. They had always struggled financially. And after my marketing consultancy took off, I was proud to support them. I had sacrificed for them, delayed buying my own house, skipped vacations, lived modestly while ensuring they never had to worry about rent, bills, medical expenses. But now I knew, I had been nothing more than a walking bank account to them. A resource to be drained. A joke. I felt sick. The messages blurred together, a swirl of letters and numbers, of laughter and betrayal. The love I thought existed between us, was it even real? Or had they always seen me as nothing more than a means to an end? My hands clenched into fists as I scrolled to the latest texts. 3 years. 3 years of them laughing behind my back while I sent thousands of dollars their way. Telling me they were struggling to pay for medication while upgrading their car. Crying about overdue utility bills while planning luxury vacations. The rage inside me was sharp, visceral. My jaw clenched so tightly it ached. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone against the wall, to erase every memory of them from my life. And then, just as quickly as the anger surged through me, it collapsed. Because underneath the rage, beneath the betrayal, there was something worse. An emptiness, a hollow, aching void where love used to be. My phone buzzed again. A call from Tyler. He must have realized his mistake. Must have seen the messages still sitting in the group chat before he desperately tried to delete them. But it was too late. I had seen everything. I let the phone ring. staring at his name flashing across the screen. My own brother. Someone I had always trusted. Always confided in. Had he ever actually cared about me? Or had he just been another player in their twisted little game? Then a text from my father. Emily, don't be dramatic. It was just a joke. You're overreacting. A joke. I pressed my lips together. My fingers trembling. They still thought I was stupid. Still thought I would fall for the same old tricks. The same manipulation. The rain outside had grown heavier, streaking down the windowpane in thick, relentless sheets. The storm outside mirrored the one raging inside me. For years, I had given and given, expecting nothing in return but love and gratitude. But now, faced with the cold, undeniable truth, I realized something. I had been living a lie. And it was time to wake up. The house was silent except for the sound of rain hammering against the window. But inside, my mind was anything but quiet. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down at the life I thought I had. A life built on trust, on love, on family, and realizing there was nothing beneath me but air. My phone was still buzzing. Tyler, Mom, Dad, one call after another. I ignored them all. I wasn't ready to hear their voices. Their excuses. Their desperate attempts to twist the truth into something softer. Something I could swallow. But I wasn't swallowing it this time. I forced myself to breathe. To focus. To think. For the past 5 years, I had been their financial safety net. Sending $3 a month without hesitation. That was $36 a year. Not even counting the extra I had sent when they claimed they couldn't afford medical bills, home repairs, or other emergencies. The real number was closer to $221.800. I had given up so much for them. Sacrificed vacations, worked extra hours, skipped luxuries I could have easily afforded, all to make sure my parents didn't have to struggle. And they had spent my money on golf clubs and luxury vacations while laughing at me behind my back. The betrayal was like a sharp knife twisting in my gut. But I had a choice now. Stay in this role they had carved out for me or break free. I wiped my face, straightened my back, and reached for my laptop. I opened my banking portal first. The investment account I had been secretly building for them, a retirement fund I had planned to surprise them with when they turned 70, had over $42 in it. They didn't deserve it. I clicked, close account. A warning popped up. Are you sure you want to proceed? I exhaled and pressed confirm. The money would be transferred back to my account in 3 days. One tie severed. Next, I called my health insurance provider. It took 45 minutes of back and forth. But eventually, a kind representative named Miguel helped me remove my parents as dependents. Since they have their own residence and you no longer provide more than 50% of their financial support, we can process this as a change in dependent status. He explained. They'll receive notification that they've been removed from your policy, effective at the end of the month. Perfect. 2 ties severed. Next was my life insurance policy. My parents had been named beneficiaries for years. I changed it to a local children's charity instead. 3 ties severed. By noon, I had systematically dismantled every financial connection I had to my parents, except one. Tyler's student loans. For the past 3 years, I had been making $580 monthly payments for him. He still had 2 years left. A part of me hesitated. Had Tyler been pressured into this by our parents? Or was he just as guilty? Then my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad says his prescription refill was denied at the pharmacy. What did you do? I stared at the message. My breath slow and controlled. That answered that question. No remorse. No apology. Just more pressure to restore the flow of money. I typed out a simple reply. Their consequences are not my problem anymore. Then I blocked his number. I sat back in my chair, exhausted but free. 3 days passed in blissful silence. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with requests for money disguised as loving messages. No guilt tripping. No urgent pleas for help. Just quiet. It was strange how quickly peace settled over me. How light I felt without the invisible chains I hadn't even realized I had been carrying. But I should have known it wouldn't last. At 8:30 p.m., just as I was finishing a client proposal, my doorbell rang. My stomach twisted. Through the peephole, I saw them, my parents, and Tyler. They stood on my porch. Their faces a mix of anger and desperation. My father's hands were shoved in his pockets, his jaw tight. My mother looked as if she had been crying. Tyler's face was pale, exhausted. I didn't open the door. Instead, I reached for my phone and called Megan, my attorney and best friend. "They're here," I whispered. "Don't let them in," she said immediately. "If they refuse to leave, call the police for trespassing." I hesitated. "That feels extreme, Jordan." Her voice was firm. "If they get inside, they'll use every emotional trick they have. Stay strong." The doorbell rang again. Then the knocking started. "Jordan," my father's voice boomed through the wood. "We know you're in there. You can't just cut us off like this. You owe us a conversation." I took a steady breath, pulled up Tyler's number, and sent a single text. "I have nothing to say. Please leave or I'll call the police." Through the peephole, I saw Tyler check his phone. He showed it to my parents, and they launched into a heated discussion. My mother's shoulders shook as she cried. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. For a moment, I almost wavered. Almost. Then I remembered the messages. The mocking laughter. The lies about medical bills. My father hadn't needed medication. He had needed new golf clubs. My mother hadn't been struggling. She had been booking luxury vacations. I wasn't their daughter. I was their investment, their resource, their ATM. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, they turned and walked away. But as they reached the end of the driveway, my father turned back. His voice cut through the night like a knife. "You're going to regret this, Jordan. Family is all you have in the end." I didn't respond. I simply locked the door and walked away. The next morning, the emails started. "My mother, your father's health is declining. His blood pressure is through the roof because of your behavior. My father, enough of this childish nonsense. Fix it, now. Tyler, they can't afford their mortgage without you. Please, Jordan, they're going to lose everything." I forwarded every message to Megan. Then I blocked their email addresses. I had nothing left to say. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. 6 months had passed since I cut them off. 6 months of silence, of rebuilding, of learning how to live for myself. At first, the guilt had been unbearable. Every time I spent money on something for myself, a new coat, a weekend trip, even a simple dinner out, I felt the old weight of obligation creeping in. But as time went on, something shifted. The guilt faded, and in its place, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. I wasn't working overtime to cover someone else's lifestyle anymore. I wasn't worrying about whether my parents could afford rent while they were secretly booking cruises. My money was mine, my choices were mine, and my future, finally, was mine. Then one evening, as I arrived home from a business trip, I found them sitting on my porch. My mother's once perfectly highlighted hair had grown out, streaked with gray. My father had lost weight. Their clothes looked cheaper, worn. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. I could have driven away, but I didn't. I parked, walked to the door, and met their eyes. "We've lost everything," my father admitted. "The condo, the car, the savings. We're sorry," my mother whispered. But they weren't apologizing for hurting me, just for losing their comfort. I let them talk. I let them plead. And when they were done, I simply shook my head. "I wish you well," I said, my voice steady. "But I can't be part of this anymore." I closed the door, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more life stories.